Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another edition of Reverse the Verse Live, the show where everything's made up and the points don't matter. I'm your host, content manager for global video production, Jared Huckabee. Now on the show this week, we've got ship designers John Crew and Corentin Billamont on the show, as well as Michael Silito from the vehicle art team to discuss their work on the Origin 600i, the Aegis Avenger rework, and the recently revealed Origin 100 series of starter ships, the concept promotion for which will launch for all backers later today. But before we get to that, let's take a look at our week in review. Now, last week on the show, we had Ben Curtis and Corey Bamford from the props team on to discuss their work adding texture and immersion to the Star Citizen universe. Now, I don't think there's another game project on the planet that would do an hour-long broadcast on props, or another community that would actually watch it. But that's just one of the many things that set Star Citizen as a project and a fandom apart. And I'm proud to be a part of that with you. So thank you for making that possible, people. Monday also saw an all-new episode of Calling All Devs, this time featuring responses to your backer-voted questions about apartments on ArcCorp, the addition of decompression effects to ships and environments, the engine count on the Freelancer Max, ships that are scheduled for rework through 2019, and more. If you haven't checked it out, it's available now up on YouTube. Rework, that's a hard word to say sometimes. Tuesday is Lore Day in Star Citizen, and this week's comlink was a portfolio for Crusader Industries, and that's a company with a special place in my heart because the very first concept promotion I ever got to work on here was the Crusader Genesis Starliner. And there you go. I mentioned the Starliner for the 4 people on Spectrum that repeatedly say that we've completely forgotten about it. I haven't forgotten the page that auto-played my blaring Starport announcements and startled everyone. My apologies, people. It was a bad decision. Wednesday brought with it another episode of Bug Slashers with special guest host Spencer Johnson exploring an insurance issue that plagued nested vehicles. If you're always going on about the pocket carriers, well, this was the episode of you. What is going on with my chair? You can hear that? Thursday is ATV Day, and this week was a ship-shape focused episode with terrific looks at the in-progress development of the Aegis Avenger rework, the upcoming Origin 600i, and the introduction to the brand new Origin 100 series of starter ships. It's like we planned this. The Avenger looks amazing, and I'm thrilled to own one, but I didn't get a 600i when they first came out because I'm not a fancy person. But now I kind of think I want to be a fancy person. And, well, of course, the new 100 series, and we'll be talking about that in just a few minutes. So, sit back, relax, let's watch a short video from the community, and when we return, we'll be right here with John Crew, Corentin Billamont, and Michael Silito to talk Avengers, 600s, and 100s. So stay tuned. And yes, that was yet another video from Star Citizen Thrustmaster. Look, it's not an MVP this week. I can't just keep giving them, but I like playing the videos, so I'm playing the videos. It's my show. I get to do what I want. Now, joining us on the show live from Manchester, United Kingdom, welcome everybody. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
It's John Crew, Michael Silito, and Corentin Bilmont. Thanks for being on the show, guys.
No problem.
Now, because this is everybody's first show, this is not everybody's first show, it's somebody's first show. Why don't we take a few minutes just to tell everybody who you are and what you do for Star Citizen, and we'll start with you, John.
I'm John Kerr. I'm the lead technical designer here at Foundry 42.
And what's a lead technical designer do?
Well, you tell me.
I've been wondering. Now, this has nothing to do with the show, dude. I'm just curious. I've been trying to figure this out for a while now.
So, the technical design department here, we work on ships mostly, working on the concepts, design briefs for them, and then when asked to actually make them, getting them into game, we work on the whole of the game balance. We do a lot of the FPS side as well for the weapons and armors there, getting them all set up as well.
All right. And we have two newcomers to Reverse the Verse. Your first time on the show. Michael, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do for Star Citizen?
Hey, I'm Mike Silito. I'm a vehicle artist at Foundry 42. And basically, vehicle artists make the vehicles look pretty and make sure they're lovely and ready to be shipped. No pun intended.
I think it was intended. For anybody that hasn't watched ATV yesterday, what ship have you been working on recently?
So 600i interior for the most part. Just working on that at the moment.
It looks great, man. If you haven't watched ATV from yesterday, you guys should do that. Some great footage from the 600i. Even I was like, I knew it was going to look good, but I'm watching the B-roll come in, and I'm like, I'm serious. I'm feeling bad that I didn't buy one myself. So I don't know any better compliment I can give you. And last but certainly not least, Corentin, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do for Star Citizen?
Yeah, I'm Corentin Bilmont, tech designer. I work for John, so he already explained the work. Mm-hmm. We make the ships work once we got the nice art on all the other stuff. That's basically it. Being sure that everything works fine.
Gotcha. And what ships have you worked on for Star Citizen?
So, well, if we go from the start, you remember me from the long Starfarer feature that was 30 minutes long. Other than that, Saber series, so including the Raven, worked a bit on the Merchantman a while ago, doing the white box. Obviously, the Nova tank that everyone remembers. The Razor that just came out in 3.1, on the Ursa rover that came out in 3.0 as well, on helping on some other ships, but nothing as big as that. And obviously, the 100i now, that is the point of the show.
Now that we can talk about it.
Waiting
Keeping
for you
the
to
best
get
for
to
last.
the 100. I gave you a softball, Corentin. All right. So, guys, of course, this show is all about the Aegis Avenger rework, the work on the Origin 600i, and the work on the recently revealed Origin 100. So you can submit your questions for our panel of luminaries to answer either live on Twitch chat, or in Spectrum General Chat. Please preface your question with the word "question" in capital letters surrounded by brackets. That's going to help Tyler Wicken and our community team, pick them out from the crowd, and send them to me. We also did put up a thread yesterday to collect some questions ahead of time on Spectrum for the folks that couldn't be here live to vote. So while those questions are coming in, we'll go ahead and start with some of the questions from that thread. Right off the bat, it says a question about the Avenger. This is one that's come a lot. He goes, will the Avenger get a standard nose hardpoint?
Yes, it will. So like the Gladius that got a standardized one in 3.0 or 3.1. The Avenger rework has the same. So I'm not sure it will have the Tiger Strike by default on it because that was bespoke to that ship at the time. Mm-hmm. So it will definitely have an equivalent Gatling gun on it, and I would expect that gun, if it's not that one, to be the Tiger Strike back again in the future when it goes back through the whole art pass of it.
Well, I'm
So
sure there
you'll
are.
be able to swap it out for whatever you want.
I'm sure there are a lot of Avenger owners out there who are thrilled to hear that. And there are a lot of Avenger owners out there. It's one of our most popular ships.
Yeah.
All right, so sticking with the theme of guns, moving to going to the 100, how can a fighter like the Origin 100 or Origin 125 be effective with two size 1 guns?
So, well, first, obviously, it's a starter ship, so it shouldn't be compared to an heavy fighter. But the point of light fighters is they are designed to be small and nimble, so they should be able to harass some other ships and work as a team. If you're obviously just a single ship, you won't destroy a starter all alone, for example. But if you work with some other people with different roles on different ships, it should work fine. And it's pretty useful to have a small ship that big guns can't really follow.
Yeah, and against ships of the same size, so against other starter ships, small prey, it's going to be fine. I know there's a lot of concern from people about size 1. That's concern in brackets. Size 1 guns being not very useful, and that's something that we're aware of and have plans for in the future. That isn't just let's just bump everything up in DPS. We've got some things in mind for future patches.
All right, cool. And I know the next question that folks are going to ask is, well, can you go into details? We're saving some of that stuff for a future segment. So keep your eyes and ears peeled. All right, but another common question that comes out anytime we introduce a ship of a certain class is how it compares advantages and disadvantages to other ships in that class. Now, this is a starter, so we could easily put it in a class with the Aurora and the Mustang and possibly even the Reliance. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of this ship versus those 3?
So, well, obviously, we have talked about the new fuel system, where other ships are just not as good at this. Obviously, there is, well, Origin looks better, slicker than other ships as well, in some ways. Obviously, some people might prefer the other ships.
I like my cockpit struts.
And the thing is that the Aura is more durable, we can say it like that, and the Mustang is just faster, so
It's more nimble. So
nimble, faster.
you've got like those 3 points of I was going to say nimbility, that's not even a word, maneuverability, agility, speed and tankiness, and each of those 3 starships, if you exclude the Reliant from this for the sake of simplicity, they bias towards one of those at the expense of others.
Okay. You mentioned the fuel system. Now, John, when the concept promotion goes live later today, we have a new entry to the Shipyard series. It's a small kind of design post mini talking about the hydrogen fuel system, as it were. So what people most commonly refer to as boost fuel, correct or incorrect as it may be. That post will go live later today. But what can you tell us about just right now about how that hydrogen fuel system works today and where we're going with it in the future? Obviously, knowing that we're going to have a post on it later today.
So I'll try and give the super quick version of the abbreviated design post that's going up later. How fuel works today in terms of regenerating it, storing it, using it is going to be quite different to how it works in future patches. So when refueling comes online as a gameplay loop, so the Starfarer being able to refuel people, how fuel works is going to be changed significantly for some ships, not significantly for others. But essentially, fuel becomes more of a precious commodity that you have to manage. Not all ships will be able to regenerate their fuel constantly in space. So for those ships, you're going to have to start making choices about range and mission types and factor in fuel stops or calling for fuel. And the air system with the 100 series is sort of an introduction to sort of counter gameplay to that. It's not exclusive. Well, the air system is exclusive to the 100 series. Other Origin ships may have that system in a different form, and other manufacturers will have their own equivalent of it. But the post will talk about how you will be able to recover and regenerate fuel and how that system plays into it.
Gotcha. So, yeah, guys, we're just touching upon the topic now. There's a whole design post that we've written up that'll go up later today with the promotion that'll explain more about it's basically what you already know. It's how it works now. It's just a little more detail and stuff. You'll see it. Just keep an eye out for that. Michael, for the 600 series, we talked about. We showed quite a bit of it in the ATV yesterday. One of the things that caught my attention was when you talked about how no lines can terminate. No lines can terminate. You have to. Why is that? Why is that such an important part of the Origin aesthetic? What does that do for Origin?
So we're currently basically using the 600i as a style guide for the future ships. We're just trying to sort of figure out what works, what doesn't. And we had a brief when we started what we wanted to try and achieve. When you have by lines, it's just sort of key lines that run through the environment. It's not always just panel lines, but sort of shapes. For example, I'm just trying to think now. There's like a glass shield in the exploration module that separates the scanning area from the rest of it, and they, instead of just flowing into the wall and then just being bolted to the wall, they need to kind of flow, then sort of wrap around the wall and flow downwards and then tuck away. And so basically having these big bolts and like just have things stuck on, it can look quite clunky and it can ruin this kind of elegant style that we're trying to do. So having them kind of just flow away rather than just terminating helps us achieve that.
Okay. And we see a little of that with the Origin 100, rather the 135, the cargo variant that has an external cargo pod that's technically similar to the Aurora, but you don't notice it. Like the Aurora's got a big old box, attached to the bottom. It's like, okay, there's a thing tacked onto the bottom. But with the 135C, it's far more integrated into the ship than before, and that was obviously a cue that was taken from your work. Done with the 600. I don't have a question there. That I just said that's what it is. So as I'm going on, one of the questions from the chat was about the windows. Obviously, the 600i has a lot of windows, has a lot of glass, has a lot of windows, and some of the windows are very, very big. It was mentioned in this segment that it created a lot of challenges for lighting. Because in different environments, there's going to be different levels of light that come through. Is that a problem that you have to deal with on the vehicle team, or is that something for VFX artists or for some other department?
That's a bit of both, really. So we have an idea of what we want to do, and then it's a case of asking other departments if we can do it sometimes. In the case of the windows, we basically just need to figure out how we can tint the windows to kind of prevent more light coming in. But there's things we can do as well. So I mentioned in the episode, I believe, that we can actually increase the brightness in the ship in those areas so that when the sun does come in, it's not as glaring. It's not as overexposed when the natural light hits. So it's just a case of figuring out what we can do. I mean, the graphics team here is very good. They tend to be able to do a lot of magic. But that said, we don't, we try and meet halfway most of the time. We don't just expect them to do everything. We have to come with intelligent solutions that work. So yeah, it's just about finding a balance. The stuff we can do, the stuff they might be able to do. We just got to ask, basically.
Yeah, that's a good way to remind folks that the 600i still has quite a bit of development left to do. Which we did a ship shape on it yesterday, but it's still it's not early, but it's by no means complete. There's still quite a bit of work. When you saw a lot of footage that said work in progress, stuff like that. It's not a ship due until 3/2, which is at the end of June. So the vehicle team is still working on it. The tech team is still working on it. The VFX, all that good stuff. So it will only get better from here. Corentin, question from the live chat has to do with the visibility for the 100. Now, the Origin ships that we've seen so far, the 600 obviously has an amazing field of view. Folks can get into the 300, and yes, the 300 is due for a rework later this year, but the 300 series has a pretty good field of view, in its own right now. The M50 also with the bubble canopy. what can you tell us about the field of view for the 100? We haven't seen a shot from inside the cockpit, looking out. And obviously the ship hasn't been built out yet; it's still concept. But what are your thoughts there?
So we've tried to push as much as possible to have some space for the pilot, especially to adjust if needed later on. Like we've noticed some feedback about the Razor, for example, where I guess this question is about this as well. So, well, there is no strut from what we can see. The dashboard might be a bit visible, because we need to see the MFDs and stuff like this, but we are trying to give as much visibility as possible for Origin ships, especially, but for all ships in general. But yeah, we don't want to make something that will make people unhappy about it.
Fair enough. Now, one of the questions from the chat was about whether the 135C had a different hull than the other ones, than the other models. I think we can pretty much confirm that it does have a different hull. Yeah.
So basically, they all have similarities, but the difference is at the back, where the 135C has an external cargo pod at the rear. It's not longer or bigger than the other ships, but if you are at the rear and the ship is landed, you can see obviously a difference at the back on the bottom, because there's cargo there.
Yeah, they are true variants in that they have geometry and hardpoint changes versus modular bits that swap out. You can't take a 135 and take that external cargo out and put a blanking plate in, and now I've got a whatever color scheme it is, blue and orange. I want to say blue and chrome.
The cargo is the blue one, and the fighter is the darker one,
gray one.
Yeah.
You can't just swap that bit out and change it. They are proper variants.
Which answers the next question: is the 100 series modular? No, it is using our variant system. Question from the chat says, will we be able to upgrade to the 100? The 100 will be available through the CCU system when the promotion goes live later today. If you have something that is less expensive than the 100, you will be able to upgrade through the CCU system, just as you can with any ship that's on active promotion. So let's see, what else do we got? A lot of people had questions about just the introduction of the 100 itself. And, we've had the 300 for so long. Why introduce a 100 when the 300 has been here, since the beginning of the project, and it seemed like a starter ship to many already?
Yeah, well, back then, whenever it came out right at the start, it essentially was that. But as the project's grown over the years, I think we've talked about this on previous ones. The ship range has expanded. There's as things have expanded, things have moved around in those ranges, and the 300 series is due for its rework that is coming out this year. And when we were doing that, there's a lot of issues with the ship as it is. Like, you can't hold cargo and walk into the ship. Like, I've seen people landing upside down just to throw cargo crates through the door just to do stuff.
Yes.
So as we were looking at things that we wanted to fix on it, we started to go, well, we could do this, we could put this in it, change this. It sort of became apparent that it was going to have some fairly significant changes to its loadout and equipment, and we sort of did a soft upgrade of it with 3.1 in that the weapon hardpoints changed, which sort of is going toward where it's going to sit when that rework happens. And when we were doing that, we're sort of, well, now that's moved, the next ship beneath it is the 85X, but that's sort of this weird snub-like fighter. It's got 2 seats, but it's got no cargo space. It's not got a bed. You can't do long-term travel in it. So we've now, by fixing the issues with this ship, we've created a gap for a new ship, and that's where the 100 series came from.
Gotcha. Now, I know a lot of folks have questions about the 300 series and whatnot. The 300 series is scheduled for rework later this year. I can pretty much guarantee you we'll have a full ship shape feature on the 300 when that time comes. So while we're talking about the 100 and the 600 and the Avenger today, not too many, not the place for too much 300 information, especially since it's still early days in the rework. But rest assured, we'll get that information for you when the time comes. All right, more questions about the 600. Now, Michael, we in the segment we talked about how when the 600i comes online for 3.2, that it'll have the exploration module in it, but not the Turing module. And I was talking to Luke Davis. About this before, and the Turing module is. We're kind of holding it as an ace in our pocket, on the schedule. We don't know quite when it's going to go on the schedule later this year, but this person wants to know. This is my long way of saying, any chance of there being a hot tub in the Turing module? Anybody want to go on the record? Yes or no on the hot tub? John Crew?
I cannot confirm.
I've got the designer of the 600 series staring at me at this moment right now.
Is that Tuberfield?
Yep.
Tuberfield, hot tub? No? Can you hear me? He can't hear me.
No.
Okay.
No, he's pulling a face. Leave that for the Phoenix owners.
All right.
They would get very angry.
I tried, guys. Let's see, what else do we got? Let's see. The Avenger rework. When the Avenger was first introduced. Well, actually, let me back this up. When the idea of the Warlock and the Stalker and all that stuff was first introduced, they were introduced as modules. Get the Bounty Hunter module, put it in the ship. Get the EMP module, put it in the ship. Because we didn't have the player-facing modular system online at that time, and we still don't at this moment, they were introduced as variants. This question asks, will the ships stay as variants, or might they go back to their modular nature?
Still a bit up in the air at the moment. As it stands, they still function as modules, but they're set up as variants. The whole mechanics of swapping them in and out is a bit. We're not quite sure where we want to go on them. There's no hard answer either way at the moment for them, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It's obviously, obviously the player-facing modular system is something that is still on the board. It's necessary for the Endeavor. It's necessary for the Retaliator and stuff like that. So it's unfortunately a question that doesn't need an answer until that system is ready to be developed and ready to come online. So rest assured, we won't forget when the time comes. We'll re-ask the question. Another question has to do with the rover on the 600i. Now, the 600i was originally premiered with a Origin rover, a nondescript Origin rover. It's very common question is whether the ship will come with the Origin rover when it comes in 3.2. Is that the case?
It won't come with the Origin rover in 3.2. The Origin rover design brief is done, pending sign-off and a concept artist being assigned to it. So given the timeline, that's simply not going to get done between now and 3.2.
Yeah. We actually talk a little bit about it on the Calling All Devs that's going to air on Monday, about how the snub craft, like the Pisces for the Carrack, the Merlin for the Constellation, all that stuff, they're actually, they're developed as separate ships. They are standalone, vehicles in their own right. When we provide them through pledge promotions, they are coupled together just like a ship pack, but they are not linked in their development. So, sometimes you get the Ursa rover, well before the Merlin before the Constellation, before it can even dock and stuff like that. So, yeah, they are on the schedule, but I can't tell you at this point when. Another question from the chat says, how big is the Avenger now? Obviously, the Avenger rework has gotten much bigger, as these things do.
Yeah, so I don't have the exact stats, but it's about 3 meters wider, 3 meters longer, and a meter higher than the current in-game Avenger. Literally the first thing as the exploration for how big do we need to make it was to scale it up, and then it was clear that wasn't going to cut the mustard. It sort of had to be more tactfully done, because the canopy looked ridiculous at that point. Like this tiny little pea-sized human head in this huge bowl canopy. So a lot of, whilst it looks the same, a lot of the geometry was completely reworked to keep the scale in proportion to the old one.
Yeah, it's a good looking ship. I like the Avenger a lot. We're getting this question quite a few times in the chat here. It has to do with the cargo space for the 600i. Now, obviously, we just asked you about the size. You're not sitting at your computer, John. You don't have the stats and the numbers present with you. But there was a lot of question when the 600i was first presented about the cargo space with or without the rover in place. Mm-hmm. What can you tell? What's been figured out about that so far?
Right. So the rover sits on the cargo space for it, and there is also an additional separate area for cargo. So if you have the rover, you can still have cargo. If you don't have the rover, you can have more cargo.
Fair enough. And of course, the specific numbers of that will come when the ship is complete and launched with 3.2.
Yes.
So we'll update the ship stats page once that's all locked. Was a racing variant of the 100 series ever considered, or is that already taken with the M50?
So I think it was never really considered because we have the M50 on the side and there's a 350R.
350R. It's already quite heavily loaded in Origin's favour.
Here's a question for Michael. What types of inspiration do you use when working on a ship like the Origin 600i?
We looked a lot at like car manufacturer, like the concept cars that they came up with. If you actually go on Pinterest and type in, for example, like BMW concept art, you get a lot of really nice sketches, that sort of stuff. And yeah, it was basically just collaborating with the concept artist who came up with the 600i. We shared our resources basically, and just going from there. And then of course we looked at like luxury yachts. That's going to probably come in more into play with the 890 jump. And yeah, we just sort of looked at the shape language rather than specifics, because if you look at specifics, then you try and shoehorn things that don't quite fit into places that don't quite fit in anyway. And so yeah, just creating a broad style based on those ideas, they really helped quite a lot.
Cool. Question for you, John, about since you're the design guy here. A lot of the talk about this, the 600 in the segment, and everybody was very excited about the 600 and how cool it is. Some got the impression that the 600 wasn't an alternative to the Constellation, but it might just be overall better than the Constellation. What are your thoughts about that? Is the 600 just completely better than the Constellation, and everybody should throw their Constellations away and buy a 600?
I wouldn't say that's. I think that'd be a slight overreaction.
Yes.
They're competitors in some ways. But they each have their own pros and cons. So, I mean, the Constellation is missiles for days coming out of that thing. It has its own snub craft. It's got different turret layouts. It can hold more cargo. But the Origin is a bigger ship and looks really nice.
Yeah, I think the virtue of having that snub craft, being able to one becomes two, and the man turrets, once man turret gameplay comes to the point where we're all happy with it, I think the Constellation is still going to be a very compelling choice for people who maybe aren't interested so much in the fancy.
Yeah,
but the fancy is really nice. Like I didn't think I was a fancy person, but then I saw it, I'm like, I think I might be a fancy person now. All right, what else do we got? Most common question. Why is this? You guys can always be counted on. What ships will the Origin 100 fit inside? I have to ask. It comes up too much.
It'll fit inside any that it physically fits inside. We didn't design it specifically to fit in or out or not in or out of any specific ship. It's broadly similar to the 85X in dimensions, so you could theorize that it would complement an 890 jump nicely if you wanted to do that. But beyond that, we haven't gone out and measured.
I mean, I am sure that people will find some ways to make some ships fit somewhere.
I've seen the videos of Starfarers laden with stuff, but compared to ships like carrier ships where we have strict metrics for fitting in, say, an Idris or a Javelin, it wasn't as strict a priority to keep on top of that for this.
I think this was seen in one of the images, but they're asking, how is entry handled in the Origin 100? How do you get inside the thing?
Oh, so there is a side door with not exactly a ramp, but like on those small planes, like a mini ramp with some
Like a little
stairs.
private jet.
Yeah.
The steps are built into the door, which folds down.
It's large enough to, well, if you want to enter it with cargo, you should be able to, because, well, there's two SCU capabilities inside, so
Yeah.
Gotcha.
needs to enter somewhere.
I was hoping because the lines were so sleek and everything that you were going to say it had like a Flight of the Navigator door where it just liquid metal. I think maybe the Xi'an Scout already took that though. Let's see, what else do we got? Do the wings fold up?
No.
For the 100?
For the
No,
100?
no.
Yeah, I don't think the wings. Do the wings fold up on any of our ships?
The Eclipse.
The Eclipse.
That's right, the Eclipse.
The Eclipse wings fold up for the exact reason I mentioned earlier about fitting in the Idris.
That's right. All right, let's see. What else do we got here? With Consolidated Outland having the Mustang, RSI having the Aurora, and now Origin having the 100, and of course MISC has the Reliant, can we expect other manufacturers like Aegis, Anvil, Drake to have other Tier 1 starter ships?
That's a good question.
It is a good question.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth thinking about.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, I wouldn't want to commit to anything here or now, but
I'm going to write that one down. Okay, no, sorry. Not ready to comment yet. Can we please have a new show called Will It Fit? No. No. All right, now I'm thinking about how to make that work. No. Let's see. Another popular question that comes up every time we introduce a new concept ship. What would you compare the 100 series maneuverability to?
I think I wrote this in a sort of, every time we do these concept sales, you guys ask us some questions that you think people are going to be asking for feeding back in the forums, and my answer to that was, imagine a ship that's in between the Aurora and the Mustang, and that's where it will feel like, handling wise.
Going to the air fuel system, do other ships have the new air fuel system, or is the Origin 100 the first?
Technically, it's the first.
Technically, it's the first to have the air system, but it's not. The concept of, again, this is sort of explained better and in more detail in the design piece that's going up later. It's exclusive to the 100 series, but it's not the only instance of that technology in the universe. Other ships have their own version of it, like Starfarers naturally have the ability to scoop fuel and process it, similar to the air system. It's just on two wildly different ends of the spectrum.
Okay. Let's see what else do we got. So guys, remember, you can keep your questions coming. You can submit your questions with the word question in capital letters surrounded by brackets. Michael, what's your favorite feature of the 600i so far?
I think the exploration module, personally, I really like the idea you can do quite a lot with quite a little. I think that's one of the ideas we wanted to kind of push through. So with a small crew, you can do quite a bit, and just having the drop ramp for the rover as well. Like, I think it's really cool, to be honest, because that thing. When we were building it, we wanted to make sure it could fit, a multitude of different rovers. So we built it around the Ursa, which was the largest we have at the time. So it also fits then a Dragonfly, a Nox, everything else we've got planned so far. That's personally what I'm quite excited about.
It's not going to fit a tank before someone else.
Not that you know.
The question says, can the cells in the Avenger be taken out of the Stalker so they can run cargo? Again, that goes towards the modular question that we discussed earlier in the show. We won't know the answer to that until the player-facing modular system comes online. And we know whether the Avenger remains variants or goes back to its modular system, so we won't know the answer to that one. A lot of these ships have bathrooms, but the 600i ship shape didn't show one. What's up with that?
Oh, we have bathrooms. we have bathrooms. Yeah. We didn't show it because it's the ones we have so far. Actually, Colin's just working on some of the crew quarters right now, but it just didn't make it into the B-roll. And we have one for the captain's quarters, which because we're reworking the captain's quarters, we didn't want to show anything off that wasn't sort of roughly final. There's a few things we need to work out with certain shapes, but yeah, don't worry. There's a bathroom, and it's going to be nice, like everything else we do with the 600i. So you won't be disappointed, I promise.
You mentioned the captain's quarters. I was surprised, and I think a lot of people were, to see that they were right front and center of the ship. Like there's the bridge up above, and then right below it there's a bed. One of the questions, and I've lost in the chat, somebody was asking whether we'll have the ability to tint the glass or pull the shades.
Yeah.
for the RPers.
This has come up plenty of times when we've been designing this thing, and yeah, we would really like to have some kind of privacy option. Like there is actually glass right now in the real world you can get, which sort of clouds up, on command. You hit a button and it clouds up or tints or whatever. If we could have something like that, I think we're trying to gun for it. That'd be really nice. That's some sort of thing we want, because yeah, you don't want to be sort of waking up on a planet if you're in like Area 18 or something, and you have a lot of people looking into the ship. It's not ideal, really.
Or is it?
Oh well,
Bought that ship,
depends on your taste. Really,
It's marketed to voyeurs, or what exhibitionists side. I'm like, what are called the people that like to be voyeur? This is not an area I'm familiar with. All right, will the 600i have a light switch? Sometimes I just want to turn off the lights without shutting the ship off. We saw that in the Terrapin. The Terrapin has a switch that allows you to turn off all the lights, and so people are playing with that now with the Terrapin.
So I mean, we're currently doing the lighting for the 600i. That's basically, it's a bit more technical because we've got a lot of area lights, and it's a lot softer. So there's we're just trying to figure it out right now. But yeah, we could have a light state. We could have. I mean, the light states we tend to have on the ships is default, off, and auxiliary, and I think emergency as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we might be able to do something like that. It's not out of the question, but we'll see.
Just goes to see whoever gets the poor job of modelling all those light switches. So
Yeah.
here's a Jira. Put a light switch in every single room
Yeah, just tack it on.
on the
It'll be fine.
address.
Oh, jeez, yeah, I wouldn't even want to think about that.
Yeah, not promising anything.
That's where it was. One of the questions people saw, we showed off the escape pods. The 600i has an elevator to get between the levels, or is it stairs?
We have 2 elevators and stairs.
Okay, 2 have elevators. Okay. So the question was, how do we get to the escape pods if the elevators have lost power? The answer is the stairs. You see, there we go. A question for John, I suppose. A while back, we introduced the idea of a 2-seater Avenger. There was an Avenger trainer. If you remember, in the early days of Squadron, there was an Avenger trainer. Is that an idea that's completely and totally dead now, or something still in the back of our minds? Or
It's fairly dead. The 2-seater one, I know it was in game for a short period. I think just whilst it was in the hangar.
Yeah.
Because we didn't at the time have the tech to do that for its flight ready release, and it wasn't a consideration at all for the rework. So there's no immediate plans for it.
Fair enough. Let's see what. Ooh. Okay, with the introduction of the air system for Origin, will other Origin ships get the air system retroactively? Like, might the 890 Jump or the 600i get the air system?
Again, this is all going to come with the refueling post. They will have similar systems. It might not be branded as the Air system. That is bespoke and has certain features above and beyond the others.
Okay. Any plans to bring other modules besides touring and exploration to the 600i? And you want a Bombay option for the 600? Any thoughts percolating in your head for other modules?
There's always lots of thoughts percolating. The way you guys have built it means it is truly modular. All the doors are in the same place. So in the future, there's nothing stopping us putting an extra one, and it will just plug in, plug out, all the doors nicely align. But there's no designs approved and signed off for anything else to go in there.
Gotcha. This question says, can we expect the Holo Viewer for the 600i to be working in 3.2? The Holo Viewer for the 600i works now. I was just using it the other day. But there will be an updated Holo Viewer, with the in-game model. It's usually how the process works. We put the concept model in there, and then the next time that model is updated is when the ship goes, implemented in the game, and we get the final model from people like Michael, who send the model to us, and we put it up there. So I think the implication is that it's not working now. It is working now. It's just the concept model. So. Yeah, because I was in there. You can spin the camera around. You can see the struts that were there in the original concept model. So let's see. On the 600i, we saw a pool table. Any other recreational activities we're not aware of?
Unless Colin snuck some in. Not that I'm aware of. Obviously, the touring module's open to stuff, maybe. I don't know yet. We need to kind of figure out the space for that module itself, and how many rooms and so on we need in there. So yeah, it's for us. What I understand, it's just a pool table. Yeah.
Okay.
What more do you need?
Yeah, exactly.
Any thoughts to make the pool table actually usable, John? You want to get in there and?
I would highly recommend playing some Star Marine and looking in Echo 11 at their pool table if you want to play with a pool table.
There you go. How many decks and levels are on the 600i?
2 decks, and then yeah, that's it, I think.
Yeah, it's got those weird, because it goes up and down other than places.
Yeah.
Technically it's 2, but it can feel like more than 2 at times.
Well, that's about it, guys. That's about all the time we have for the show. So thank you so much. You did it.
No problem.
No problem.
Anything else you want? That wasn't worth clapping for. Anything else you want folks to know about the 600 or the 100 or the Aegis Avenger rework before we let you go?
No, I've got nothing.
No, we're just gonna crack on.
Yeah, gonna get back and keep on making it.
Thank you, guys. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, play a short video, and then we'll be right back with our wrap-up. Stay tuned, everybody. Look, I thought it was funny. And it's the first thing in a long time that reminded me of the kind of stuff I used to make when I was a backer. And like I said, it's my show, so I put what I like in there. If you're watching this later on YouTube, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about because we had to pull that out for copyright stuff. And with that, we wrap up this week's show. A special thanks to John Crew, Corentin Bilmont, and Michael Silito for agreeing to put up with my crap and my questions one more time. Some housekeeping before we let you go. The Origin 100 concept promotion begins for all backers later today and runs through the end of the month. Also, we've got a free fly. Would you believe it's been almost an entire year since we've done our last free fly? Well, the next one starts later today, and everyone that registers for an account on the RobertSpaceIndustries.com website will have free access to the Drake Cutlass, the Tumbrel Cyclone, the RSI Aurora, and the Consolidated Outland Mustang. So this is your chance for you and your friends to check these ships out if you haven't already. And finally, before we...
The New York City Transit Bureau would like to welcome you to the Big Apple. We hope you enjoy your stay in Seoul.
Yes, it was very annoying. Thank you.
Featuring the all-new Genesis-class Starliner from Crusader Industries. Meridian Transit is your choice for seeing the stars in style. The only question you have to ask
How
is,
long was this?
where will you go?
All right. Well, that about wraps up this week. I already did this part. Guys, I'm content manager for Global Video Production, Jared Huckabee. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Thanks for watching. For the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42, you can subscribe to our channel, or you can check out some of the other shows, and you can also head to our website at www.robertsspaceindustries.com. Thank you very much for watching.